A full recap of today's game, including highlights from the biggest moments. Listen to Mike Shilt's post-game comments. Plus, we'll bring you today's play of the game. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
A tough ending in Toronto as the Padres fall in 11 innings to the Blue Jays. The final score, the Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6, as the Blue Jays sweep the Padres in a 3-game series up in Canada at the Rogers Center, and the Padres have now lost 6 in a row for a 6-game losing streak for the Padres since 2023. Welcome into our Jamul Casino Resort post-game show. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. A player when it comes to giving you what you want. Jamul Casino Resort isn't playing around. It's way more than a place to game. It's a place where you can stay and play in every possible way. Jamul Casino Resort, the player's place. Well, another tough one for the Padres. This one very different than the first 5 games in this now 6-game losing streak, and we will break down each and every aspect of this game. There is a lot to talk about. We'll go through the game, give you a full recap, all the radio highlights from this one. We'll go back to Toronto, hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, and much, much more to come as the Padres, again, lose a 6th in a row. They're now 27-21 on the year. Blue Jays improved to 25-24. The Jays with the sweep of the Padres go from 2 games under 500 to now a game over 500. Well, this game you could really break down into 2 parts. There was everything before the top of the 9th inning, and there was everything after the top of the 9th inning. Let's talk about the portion of this game before the top of the 9th inning, because let's be honest, it was the same old story for a while in this game. Padres scored 2 runs on a Gavin Sheets home run in the second to take a 2-0 lead. Blue Jays scored 2 in the third, 2 in the 4th inning to make it 4-2. And then Stephen Kolek would end up settling in, and only 3 of the runs earned against Kolek that he gave up in the 3rd and the 4th. Kolek settled in 6 innings, 3 earned runs given up, 4 total, 7 hits. And Kolek ultimately gets a no decision in this game. Padres still trailed 4-2 going to the 9th inning, in part because they just could not find ways with runners in scoring position once again to cash in when they had guys on base. There was a stretch here today where the Padres were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, and the 0 for with RISP was up to 0 for 39 going back to last Wednesday against the Angels. So for a while, it was same old story. Padres pitching pretty good. Some shaky defense by Gavin Sheets in one of those innings where Toronto scored runs. But again, not an insurmountable deficit, and the Padres taking another 0-for with runners in scoring position and scattering hits and not stringing hits together, and the only offense they had in the game was the 2-run home run by Gavin Sheets. And then you go to the 9th inning when Sheets strikes again, a 2-run shot, makes it 4-4. Padres have some life. And then in the 10th inning and the 11th inning, the Padres finally found ways to come through with runners in scoring position. In the top of the 10th inning in a 4-4 game, Luis Arraez, a big 2-out RBI single to make it a 5-4 game. Then the Blue Jays with Robert Suarez on the mound in the 10th inning, first batter of their half of the inning, RBI single. And then same thing in the 11th inning. Padres get an RBI single from Gavin Sheets to make it a 6-5 game. And then the Blue Jays immediately against Jeremiah Estrada in the bottom half of the 11th inning. RBI triple for Dalton Varsho, first hitter of that inning. And a few batters later, the walk-off RBI single by Nathan Lucas. So as this game went to extras, Padres finally found a way to cash in with runners in scoring position. But we know the deal in these extra innings. Number one, it's bad execution, which the Padres, to their credit offensively, did a good job of. They got a run in the 10th and a run in the 11th. But especially when you are the visiting team, you gotta try your best to get more than 1 run, because you know the home team is getting that same automatic runner on second base in the bottom half of the inning. And what it sets up is, even if you get a run, then the home team has an immediate opportunity to tie the game. And that's exactly what the Blue Jays did. First batter of each of the 10th and the 11th inning got a hit, tied the game. And ultimately, Jeremiah Estrada ends up giving up an RBI single to Lucas after the triple by Varsho. He did a great job getting himself on third base with nobody out, and that's how the Blue Jays win the game. So the Padres, as far as execution in the extra innings, the positive was they found ways to get the automatic runner in. You like that, but you really want to try to score more than one. They could not do that in the 10th. They could not do that in the 11th. Came back to bite them. And then on the pitching side of things, look, it's always tricky with a bullpen when you're talking about these extra innings because they come in with a runner on second base. It's not the easiest situation, but every reliever now has to deal with it in our modern extra innings. Robert Suarez gives up the hit, and then Jeremiah Estrada gives up an extra base hit, the triple, an intentional walk, and a couple of batters later, an RBI single through the left side of the infield wins the game. So, look, in that kind of spot, when you're trying to close out a game like this, yeah, you got to find a way. And unfortunately, neither Suarez or Estrada could find a way to close out this game. Thought it was interesting. We'll see if Mike Shildt asked about it in the post-game press conference on that final play. The infield was playing in. You know, that's a spot where you get a ground ball, you could get a double play to get out of the inning. I suppose the thinking was there to try to cut down the run at home plate. I'm not sure that if the middle infielders are back at double play depth, that they turn to on that ball with where it was hit and the speed of Lucas. I don't know that they would have, but it was just interesting to see them in. So, you know, we'll see kind of what the explanation is there, if there is an explanation after the game. Just an interesting little aspect and tidbit of that bottom half of the 11th inning with the way it ended and how the defense was set up on the infield. But look, again, for most of regulation, really all of regulation in this game, it was the same issue. The runners in scoring position, offense not doing much. The Padres certainly, if you want to pull out a silver lining from this game, and I know that's hard to do when you've lost 6 in a row and it's not going well, I suppose the silver lining is that they showed some life. They showed some fight. They came back. It was all courtesy of Gavin Sheets through 9 innings, but they did find a way to cash in when they had runners in scoring position. But again, in extra innings, especially when you're on the road, you really want to find a way to score more than a single run in your half of the extra inning. And the Padres couldn't do it in the 10th, couldn't do it in the 11th. It allowed the Blue Jays to have the tying run on second base immediately in their halves of the innings. And the Blue Jays took advantage. And then as the home team, you get a chance to go out and win it and not let the other team respond. And that's exactly what they did in the bottom half of the 11th inning. And you can get into how and why and what happened in this game. But bottom line, Padres have lost 6 in a row. And I'm sure they're not feeling great right now. Swept by the Mariners and now swept by the Blue Jays. And they'll try to regroup and start anew tomorrow as they begin a series in Atlanta. A lot to do on our post-game coverage. When we come back, we have all the radio highlights for you, a lot to recap. We'll go back to Toronto, hear from Mike Shildt. Again, the final score in 11, Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Final score in 11, the Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. The Padres have dropped 6 consecutive games going back to Friday against the Mariners. And now the Padres, after getting swept in Toronto, they will head on to Atlanta for the second half of this 6-game road trip. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt after another tough one here today for the Padres. We'll also have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Much more to do as we bring you up until Matt Scraby and Braden Suprenant will come your way, likely towards the second half of this hour, towards the top of the hour. We'll see how exactly how long we go on our post-game coverage. They are live at the Padres Blood Drive down at Gallagher Square at Petco Parks. They have a live show, Scraby and Suprenant, and they'll come your way in just a little bit as we continue to wrap things up on our post-game coverage. Well, for a while, it looked like we wouldn't have a whole lot to tell you about or to recap, a pretty simple recap for a third consecutive day as the Padres played the Blue Jays in Toronto, but things got pretty wild as we got later in this one. Let's recap it from start to finish.
Which moments determine the outcome of today's game? We'll paint you a picture with our game highlights on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's start in the top of the second. Entering the inning, the Padres had not scored in 27 consecutive innings going back to Sunday against the Mariners at Petco Park. Jackson Merrill led off with a single against Blue Jays starter Bowden Francis. Gavin Sheets was next.
Check them out at SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Gavin Sheets swings at the first pitch. He sees it's going back. It is going to be home run for Gavin Sheets. Well, that breaks the streak, Tony.
I tell you what, when you're in it, it feels like it's never going to end. Gavin Sheets puts an end to it very quickly here. Puts the Padres ahead 2-0.
So finally, something for the Padres to smile about. They had an early 2-0 lead. Gavin Sheets' 7th home run of the season. Padres would get another runner on base immediately after with a walk to Jake Cronenworth, but he was stranded at second base. It was still a 2-0 game. Going bottom 3, Stephen Kolek allowed 2 straight singles to start the inning. With 1 out and runners still on first and second, Dalton Varsho dug in.
James Jean behind the plate. 0-1. Ground ball to the right side. Gavin Sheets has it, but it bounces off his glove into right field. One run is going to score as Mariano comes hustling in, flips over to second base, but it's not in time. Well, what turns into a potentially inning double play now turns into a Jays rally as Tyler Heineman is able to score.
Padres had a 2-1 lead. There were still runners on second and third for Addison Barger.
Still force out at a couple of bases. 1-1 line drive, base hit in the left field. Bochette is going to score. Here comes the throw. They're going to hold up Varsho. A quick throw over to third base is not in time, and this game is now tied on the RBI single by Addison Barger. And the inning continues here for the Jays in the third.
So a 2-2 game. Kolek was still in major trouble, but he got the next 2 outs to get out of the inning with the game still tied at 2. Top of the 4th inning, Padres got a leadoff single from Jackson Merrill. Jake Cronenworth threw a 1-out walk, so the Padres had a runner in scoring position, but Francis retired Elias Diaz and Jose Iglesias to end the inning. In the bottom half, Kolek issued a leadoff walk to Jonathan Clase. Tyler Heineman hit a 1-out single. That set things up for the leadoff man, Bo Bichette.
Bichette 1 for 2 today, grounded out and single. The first pitch to him. Swing it. Line drive, base hit into center field. Let's see if they're going to send the runner. They do. Class A is heading home. Here comes the throw. He is safe at the plate on the head first slide. As Elias Diaz has to abandon home plate to block it up the first base line. Jays have a 3-2 lead on the RBI single by Bo Bichette.
Kolek then hit Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to load the bases. Dalton Varsho then hit a sac fly to center. That brought Heineman home from third base, and the Blue Jays had a 4-2 lead. The Blue Jay bullpen took over in the 5th. The Ariel Rodriguez tossed a 1-2-3 top of the 5th. Rodriguez and Mason Fluharty combined for a scoreless 6th inning. Fluharty and Chad Green combined for a scoreless top of the 7th inning. Meanwhile, Stephen Koldick went 6 innings, allowed 3 earned runs on 7 hits. Yuki Matsui tossed the scoreless bottom of the 7th to keep it a 2-run deficit. Top of the 8th inning, Luis Arraez hit a 2-out double against Jimmy Garcia. Manny Machado stepped in, representing the tying run. He popped out. The inning was over. Padres still trailing 4-2. Sean Reynolds threw a scoreless bottom of the 8th inning. So he went top 9. Blue Jay closer Jeff Hoffman came on. Padres trailing by 2. Jackson Merrill drew a leadoff walk. Then Gavin Sheets dug in, representing the tying run.
The 1-1 pitch. Swung on. Driven towards right center field. Pretty well hit. Going back for it is Straw. He's at the warning track. It's gone! Home run for Gavin Sheets, his second of the day. Another 2-run shot, and this ball game is now tied 4-4.
New life for the Padres, and you can see it in their dugout. Everybody top stepping, praying that ball had enough juice to get out. It does indeed, and Gavin Sheets has doubled up. Right center this time, another 2-run shot. It's been the Gavin Sheets offense. He's tied this game in the 9th.
Yeah, Tony, right about that. The Gavin Sheets show, a 2-run home run early, a 2-run home run in the 9th inning to tie it at 4. Jeff Hoffman retired the next 3 batters. That got us to the bottom half of the 9th inning, tied at 4. Jason Adam came on. He issued a pair of 2-out walks, but he got out of it. So that sent us to the 10th inning, tied at 4. Jose Iglesias was the Padres' automatic runner. He went to third base on a ground out. Fernando Tatis Jr. struck out. The inning was left up to Luis Arraez.
1-1 pitch. Line drive. Base hit into left field. That's going to score Jose Iglesias. Padres on a 5-4 lead thanks to the RBI single by Luis Arraez.
That's all the Padres got in their half of the 10th inning. We went bottom 10. Robert Suarez came on. Nathan Lucas was the Blue Jays' automatic runner on second base. Jonathan Clase led off for the Jays.
First pitch to Clase. Swung on, chopper up the middle, and it's going to go through for a base hit. Here comes the throw home. It's not going to be in time. And once again, we have a tie ball game.
So we were tied up at 5. George Springer pinch hit in the 8th spot. Suarez got him to fly out. Alejandro Kirk pinch hit in the number 9 spot. He singled on a 2-strike pitch to put runners on first and second, but then Suarez bounced back to strike out Bo Bichette. He got a fly out from Vlad Guerrero Jr. to end the inning. So we went to the 11th inning, tied at 5. Manny Machado was the Padres' auto runner on second base. Little stayed on to face 3 lefties in a row. Jackson Merrill flew out. Manny went to third on the fly out. That brought up Gavin Sheets.
2-1 offering. Swung on, line drive, base hit into center field. Gavin Sheets coming through big time once again. Gives the Padres a 6-5 lead here in the 11th.
Have a day, young man. Knuckle curve, bottom of the zone in the middle of the plate. And the best part about this swing is that Gavin, despite the 2 homers in this game, didn't try to unload on this baseball. Just a good piece of hitting, kept his head down on the breaking ball, lines it in the center. The Padres take a 6-5 lead.
Yeah, good points all the way around by Tony. Great piece of hitting by Sheets. So he had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs on the day. Padres led 6-5. Little then retired Jake Cronenworth. The Blue Jays then went to righty Braden Fisher. Elias Diaz flew out to end the inning. So we went bottom 11. Padres leading 6-5. Jeremiah Estrada came in. Vlad Guerrero Jr. was the Blue Jays' automatic runner on second. Dalton Varsho led off.
Next pitch, ground ball over the first base bag into the right field corner. Guerrero is going to score. As he rounds second, he's going to head for third. Here comes the throw. It's not going to be in time. We have a 6-6 tie.
So just like that, we were all knotted at 6 again. After that, winning run on third base in Varsho, nobody out. Padres elected to intentionally walk Addison Barger to put runners on first and third. Ernie Clement then flew out to right, not deep enough to get the winning run home. So the Padres then were a double play ball away from getting out of the inning and getting this game to the top of the 12th inning. Runners on first and third. The runner on third, Varsho, representing the winning run. The game was left up to the Blue Jays' Nathan Lucas.
The 3-2 offering. Swung on, ground ball through the left side, base hit, and the Jays walk it off. 7-6 over the Padres on the RBI single by Nathan Lucas.
Didn't have to be hit hard with the infield in, just to the right of Iglesias, and the Blue Jays walk it off.
The entire Jays dugout on the field. Each of them with a bottle of water in their hand as they're spraying water on Nathan Lucas. After he helps the Jays complete a walk-off victory over the Padres and a sweep over the Padres here in Toronto.
The Padres lose a sixth consecutive game. They get swept for a second consecutive series. Padres dropped to 27-21 on the year. The Blue Jays improved to 25-24. Final totals in 11 for the Blue Jays: 7 runs, 12 hits, no errors. For the Padres, 6 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. Padres went 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Those 2 hits with RISP coming in the extra innings. And how about this? Blue Jays had 21 at-bats with runners in scoring position. They went 6 for 21. Winning pitcher in this game was Braden Fisher, who completed the top of the 11th inning. Losing pitcher was Jeremiah Estrada, who drops to 1-3, and blown saves in this game for both Robert Suarez and Estrada. So that's that in this one. Certainly a very different game than the first 5 of this losing skid, but still a painful defeat for the Padres in Toronto today. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, plus a little bit later, full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Much, much more to do as we continue to wrap this one up. Final score, Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. Our post-game coverage continues after this. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Our post-game coverage is always brought to you by the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players' Place. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to wrap this one up. Padres fall 7-6 in 11 innings in Toronto today. Padres have lost 6 in a row. They get swept for a second consecutive series. It is the first 6-game losing streak for the Padres under Mike Shildt. The team has not dropped 6 in a row since June of 2023. So it's been a little while since the Padres have lost 6 in a row. They are at that mark now. You look up and down the lineup today. Fernando Tatis Jr. 0 for 4. Luis Arraez did have a couple of hits in this game, including a big RBI single in extra innings to put the Padres ahead. Jackson Merrill did have 2 hits. Gavin Sheets had a great day. 3 hits, 2 home runs in regulation in this game. He was the only offense. A 2-run home run to give him a 2-0 lead in the second. A 2-run shot in the 9th inning to tie the game at 4. Elias Diaz was 0 for 5. Jake Cronenworth 0 for 3. Jose Iglesias did have a base hit. Combined the left fielders, Lockridge and Hayward, were 0 for 3 in this game. Xander Bogaerts had a pinch hit appearance. He didn't have a base hit in this game. And all in all, the Padres fall 7-6 in 11. Stephen Kolek made the start. 6 innings, 4 runs given up, 3 of those earned on 7 hits. He walked 3 and struck out 6. Let's go back to Toronto at Rogers Center and here's some post-game reaction.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Mike, you threw a lot at him today, kept battling back. What's your takeaway from today's game in the series?
Obviously didn't go great either way. The battle's the key word today. Fought our tails off. Got a little back to playing our kind of game. A lot of, able to get some big hits. Louis Sheets late. Sheets big day, obviously. Big homer, big couple homers, 5 RBIs. Good at bats against a couple tough lefties from those guys. Cola gave us a chance. Yuki, Sean, Jason kept him right there. Extra innings, obviously the guy starts at second. We were able to, get it done twice and just couldn't get it shut down.
What are you seeing out of Kolek? Like when he's in the zone, it's great. Today he left a few in the middle probably, but like you said, he gave you a chance, battled the 6 innings.
Battled through 6, not an extra base hit, a couple self-inflicted walks. But, like you said, a couple balls over the plate, but he was around the plate all day, throwing strikes and, for the most part. And like I said, he kept us right there at 4, gave us a chance. Bullpen came in, gave us a chance, and, just couldn't quite bring it home.
I don't want to parse between like a loss is a loss.
Yeah, sure.
But this is 6 straight.
It is.
And you haven't done that before.
That's right.
I guess it'd be different if you hadn't battled today. You're probably going to say that this is how you get out of it, is playing like this, having at bats like this. But like, how does this team, which was so good for 5 or 6, 7 weeks, get back to that?
Yeah, uncharted territory. I mean, nobody really here's experienced that. And, I do believe I thought about the last couple, days. And then, of course, today I felt good about us winning the game. But, as you reflect back on where we're at, first of all, to your point, listen, today is exactly how you get out of it. That's just how this works. You play our game. And today, we played some good defense. Toddy, a good play, multiple good defensive plays, one cost us, but tough at bats. Guys had, aggressive throwing strikes in the zone. They got hits. We didn't really, not a lot was self-inflicted. That's how that happens. And what I was getting back to is, I really am confident that this is going to only make us stronger. There's no question about that. It will make us stronger. It doesn't feel great right. Very soon it'll be a distant memory as we continue to get back to playing on the good side of the left-hand side of the win column. And, listen, it's just going to make us stronger and it'll make us closer.
What has Gavin Sheets? I mean, just kind of time and again, a guy who came in, had to earn his way onto the team. What has he brought, made you better?
Quite a bit. He's lengthened the lineup. He's definitely a presence in the lineup. He's been able to go out and get big swings, a couple homers a day, obviously. The swing off the lefties, been able to stay in on lefties. Just a really good makeup guy and is able to help us win ball games in a lot of different ways. Just a great addition to the club.
What's Sean Reynolds doing for himself, coming in and
taking advantage of the opportunities. That's what this game's about, daily is opportunities. And, when you break in, the more you get the opportunities and the more you are consistently successful, the more opportunities you get. And, but no, Sean's did a nice job, fielded his position well. I admitted that earlier about, how he got off the mound a couple of times and helped himself. But no, Sean's done the ball very well.
Obviously, Xander came in and pinch hit just a day after the foul ball.
Just a little banged up. We were going to pick our spot, and we got it. Did his job, moved the guy. Glacius, good job reading it, getting a third, and we're able to bring him in. But, yeah, he's just a little banged up, and don't think it's anything that it's going to be more than beyond today, but we'll check it tomorrow.
See Jackson shrink the zone today?
Quite a bit. Yeah, I thought Jackson's at bat were fantastic. Chased a little bit, slowed it down. Typical Jackson, that's what he does. Got back to, as you said, shrinking the zone, got back to the middle of the field, a couple balls to the middle of the field. Then later on, he's got the runner at second base. Lefty that likes to sink it, gets down in the count, not try to do too much. Nice strokes, got easy power, hits the ball really well, actually, to more left center to center field and moves the runner and sets up, Gavin. But yeah, I thought Jackson's at bats were really good.
One more on Gavin. He'd hit 2 bombs.
Yeah.
Then he goes down and doesn't try to do too much with the curveball. He's done that before. Like, he kind of this all-around hitter who's a really strong kid too. So what does that swing tell you?
Yeah, it tells us that he's got his head in the right place. He's a hitter. He's not. He clearly has power, and sometimes the guys that power are just power hitters, but this guy's a hitter with power. And McGuire years ago, and I talked to Big Mac, and I'd be like, hey, man, from a power hitting standpoint, because you were a power hitter, how would you approach? He goes, I wasn't a power hitter. I was a contact hitter with power. And I thought it was a really good way of looking at it. I think Sheets, got the same approach. And like Toddy says, we refer to it a lot, and rightfully so. We do what the game calls for, and the game called for, not trying to do too much, get a ball in the middle of the field, and, was able to get us the lead at the time.
What did you see?
You're welcome. Thanks.
Obviously, it's a tough spot for Suarez. What did you see from him in that inning? Is there anything that kind of
I thought he was great. Listen, it is a tough spot. You start the guy at second base, No, I thought he, challenged guys. Thought he made quality pitches. They put together a lot of tough at bats, man. You got to, listen. They didn't stop. Their at bats were relentless, and they were consistent through the lineup. So they went and executed when they had to, and put some good swings and tough swings on some really good pitchers at the end, and Suarez and Estrada, and you give them credit.
And one on Kolek for you too. He struggled early on in the game, but he was able to give you 6 innings, a fair number of strikeouts too for the game. What did you think of his outing today?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. You make a good point. He's able to, when I like to get down, mentioned that, no extra base hits for Steven. Battled his tail off and was able to, keep it right there at 4, grab 6. And then we don't have to go to the bullpen and allow our higher leverage guys to be ready to go later. Yuki did his job and Sean did his job. So nice job by Steven. Quality start, as the books would say.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt after this 7-6 loss in 11 innings in Toronto. Sam Levitt back with you on our Jamul Casino Resort postgame show inside our San Diego studios. Let's touch on a couple of things that Mike Shildt had to discuss there. And before we get to some of the bright spots in this game, because opening segment kind of told you about the negatives, game recap, we kind of focused on what went wrong in this game or how the Padres lost this game. Also, they came back to tie it, take leads in this game. Just zero in on something Mike Shildt said there towards the beginning of the post-game presser, and he said, I'm paraphrasing here, that today is exactly how you get out of it as far as getting out of this. Padres are in losing 6 consecutive games, and you hope that's true. You hope going to Atlanta that you can take something away from what happened in the 9th, 10th, and 11th offensively. The fact that they did show fight, tied the game on the Sheets home run in the 9th inning. The fact that they did have a couple of hits with runners in scoring position in the 10th and the 11th inning. Remember, the Padres had been 0 for 39 with runners in scoring position before Luis Ariz had that 2-out RBI single in the 10th inning. They were in the midst of an 0 for 39 2-9 span with runners in scoring position, which is hard to believe. So I guess you got to hope that they take that and they carry it into tomorrow in Atlanta and can find ways now to get back to the offense we saw in the first handful of weeks of the season. Look, there's no doubt today was definitely different than the first 5 games of this losing skid, where the Padres scored a grand total of 3 runs and they were shut out back-to-back games to begin this series in Toronto. But it's not going to make you feel a ton better. You still lost the game today, and it still is 6 losses in a row. So, look, you got to hope that they can take what they did late today. And, as they say, momentum is as good in baseball as your next day's starting pitcher. I don't know that you always take a ton of it one game to the next. I think we all know that. We've watched the game long enough, but you hope they can take at least a little something from what they did in the later part of this game. Stephen Kolek, I thought, was really good today. I mean, 6 innings, 4 runs, 3 earned, 7 hits, made a couple of mistakes, but you look at the 2 innings where he gave up runs, gives up a couple of singles to start the third. But hey, if Gavin Sheets picks up that ball cleanly, that's a potential double play ball in that third. Could have got Kolek out of the inning. They at least get 1 out on that play. And then Steven has an opportunity to get out of that inning with no runs across, but did have the error by Sheets in that third inning, which didn't help him. Then you look at the 4th inning, leadoff walk. You don't want to do that. Gives up a single, another single, a hit by pitch, a sac fly. So some of it was, kind of, self-inflicted there as far as the runs coming in the 4th inning. But you look at it, I mean, Kolek's been good. 6 innings, 3 earned runs given up in this game. By definition, a quality outing for Stephen Kolek today. So to me, he continues to show promise, which is certainly a bright spot in this game. You want to look at other bright spots, and I know some of you out there are yelling at your radio right now. We don't want to hear about it. Let me tell you, some of the other bright spots. Luis Arraez had another couple of hits in this game. He continues to swing the bat well. Jackson Merrill was on 3 times, had 2 hits. That's good to see. Jackson came into today in the midst of a 2 for 27 stretch. The fact that Gavin Sheets had the game he did, you like that. So there was a number of things to pull away from this game that you liked. Certainly won't make you feel stellar about losing a game like this in 11-7-6 and having it be a 6th consecutive loss. I don't expect you to feel that way. But, hey, you hope the Padres can try to take a little bit of what they did here today, some of the positives they did today, and hopefully find a way to snap this skid tomorrow in Atlanta. When we come back, we'll continue to break this one down. If you want to get a quick phone call in, you can at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Phone number to call. We are going to get you pretty shortly here to Scraby and Soprenet. They are down at the Padres Blood Drive at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. So a great cause today that they'll be highlighting, and I'm sure reacting to today's game in Toronto as well. Final score in 11, Blue Jays 7, Padres 6. Our postgame coverage continues after these words. Our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to talk about today's game. A real tough one for the Padres here today. They lose 7-6 in 11 innings. Padres led 2-0. They then trailed 4-2. They tied it in the 9th inning on a Gavin Sheets 2-run home run, and unfortunately Padres then trading runs in the 10th inning. They got a run in the 11th inning to take a 6-5 lead, but then the Blue Jays scoring 2 against Jeremiah Estrada, 1 run earned, 1 run unearned in that bottom half of the 11th inning. The walk-off base hit from Nathan Lucas in the bottom of the 11th to win it for the Blue Jays 7-6. The Padres get swept by the Jays. They have now lost 6 in a row. There were bright spots today out of the Padres bullpen. Let's tell you about one of those.
Which pitcher entered the game and slammed the door shut? This is today's relief pitcher of the game, presented by David P. Shapiro Criminal Defense Attorneys. When your freedom and future are on the line, you need the best arm in the pen. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com.
Well, the good news is that you could go a few different ways with this before Robert Suarez, and again, and I'll get to the extra innings and again here in a second, because, you know, I've seen some comments in the chat and on social media, which I just think people, and I'm not, let me get to the relief pitcher of the game first before I get to any of that, before I voice my displeasure. You could go a few different ways with this. Yuki Matsui, scoreless 7th inning, Padres down 4-2 at that point. Sean Reynolds, scoreless 8th inning, Padres down 4-2 at that point. So good job by those guys keeping it a 2-run deficit. Jason Adam, a scoreless bottom of the 9th inning after the Padres had tied it at 4. I'll give it to Adam because of the part of the lineup he had to go through in that 9th inning. Even though he walked 2 in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs, he had to get Guerrero, he had to get Varsho, then walk 2, got a fly out from Lucas to end the inning. And look, I know it got a little bit dicey there in the 9th inning with the winning run on second base, but that's a spot. You got good hitters at the plate who can certainly hit it out, in guys like Guerrero and Varsho, and one swing wins it for the Blue Jays in that spot. And Adam did get this game to extra innings where the Padres would have a couple of leads. So for that reason, Jason Adam, our relief pitcher of the game. Nice jobs by Matsui and Reynolds as well in this one. Let me just get to the extra inning. Look, I understand if you're out there and you are displeased with Robert Suarez and Jeremiah Estrada for not being able to hold the leads. Look, they've got a job there. It's not an ideal situation because they've got the runner on second base. And look, like I said in the opening segment, a key for the visiting team in these extra innings, yes, of course you want to get the automatic runner in or get 1 run to take a lead when it's tied, but you really want more than that. You really don't want to be in the scenario where the home team comes up in the bottom half of the inning and immediately has the tying run on base. You know why? Look at what happened in the 11th inning, because you had a 1-run lead, you had a triple, and just like that, you're tied again, and you've got the winning run 90 feet away from scoring with nobody out. That's why you want more runs in the top half of the inning. So, yes, I think Suarez or Estrada, they would look you in the eye and say, hey, I got a job to do. It's my job, no matter what the situation is, to finish that game. And I understand that. But with that said, it's a tough spot for these relievers in these extra innings. I'm always going to have a hard time being too hard on the relievers in extras unless they're dealing with, let's say, a really, really big lead and things go totally haywire. But it's a tough spot. You're coming in, you've got a runner on second base automatically that you didn't put there, okay? We know these extra innings are not exactly fair to the relievers. So you want to be displeased with those guys today? I get it. But with that said, I'm not going to hammer them here today on the post game. Not that I typically would anyway, but you know, I'm not going to hammer them because it's a tough spot. It is. It just is. And look, you can look at that in the extra inning and say, hey, they've got to shut the door. And they probably agree with that. But you know what? Part of it's on the offense because you really want to score more than 1 run in the extra inning. You want to give the reliever a little bit of cushion. So it goes on both parties when you look at why the Padres lost this game in extras. It's not just on Suarez. It's not just on Estrada. It's on the offense too, because again, you want to score more than one run. Not that you have to win the game, but it sure is nice. It sure does make it quite a bit easier. Let's hear today's catch of the game.
Which defensive play had the biggest impact on today's game?
He is at the wall, leaps up, and he makes the catch.
This is the catch of the game.
Gonna hang a star for Jackson Merrill.
Reeled in by Anthony's Fish Grotto La Mesa, celebrating 80 years of seafood excellence.
Right-handed Sean Reynolds. Reynolds looks at second. Now he delivers home another bunt attempt. This time it gets it down. Reynolds is going to field it. Plants, throws to first base in time. Nice play.
Go ahead, big man. Off the mound quickly like a cat, and then fired a strike to take away what should have been a bunt single. Nice play by Sean Reynolds.
Yeah, really nice play by Sean Reynolds, who is a big guy. He is a tall guy. How tall is Sean Reynolds? Is he 6'8"? I think he's 6'8". About a foot taller than me. I've stood next to him many times. He is 6'8". So he's got to get down there and go pick that ball up. Nice play to get the runner at first base in Heineman, and a big part of why Sean Reynolds was able to get through that 8th inning and keep it a 2-run game. So Sean Reynolds, really nice defensive play. The tall right-hander providing today's catch of the game. We'll step aside when we come back. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll wrap things up, get you ready for tomorrow's series opener in Atlanta. If you want to squeeze a phone call in, you can, 833-288-0973. We may squeeze in a couple before we send things to Braden Soprenet and Matt Scraby. Today's edition of Gwynn and Chris, those two guys filling in today, and they will be live from the Padres blood drive at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. So they are there supporting a great cause, and I'm sure they'll talk about that and have plenty of reaction to today's game as well. Final score in 11, Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network. Jamul Casino Resort, Padres postgame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we continue to wrap this one up. Final score, Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. Padres have lost 6 in a row. They get swept in Toronto. They'll head on to Atlanta. We'll have more on the series opener against the Atlanta Braves coming up in just a little bit. And a reminder, once we're done here, we'll send things to Braden Soprenet and Matt Scraby. They will be live until 7 p.m. Is Scraby doing a show from Gallagher Square? We'll see. I'll have to, you know what, if Scraby's listening or somebody text Scraby, somebody around here text Scraby, I don't know. They're either on until 6 or 7. From the Padres Summer Blood Drive at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. So a really, really great cause there, and they're going to do a great job, I'm sure, talking about that and talking about the Padres and anything else going on in the wide world of sports here on 97.3 The Fan. All right, before we get to the out-of-town scoreboard, wrap things up, get you ready for tomorrow, let's squeeze in a couple of phone calls. As always, I don't promise to have the answers, but I'm here to listen to you and be a sounding board. Let's begin things. We go to Jed calling in from San Diego. Jed, you're on the Padres Radio Network. Go ahead.
Hey Sam, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Sorry if you've already talked about this. I'm a little late tuning in, but in the extra innings there, they obviously walked the lefty to get to the righty-righty matchup. But I've been seeing a ton of Padre fans upset that they played the infield in, and hindsight 2020 would have been a routine double play ball, but I just don't think you can play for the double play in that situation with the winning run on third base. But I'm seeing Padre fans all over Twitter saying Mike Shildt setting this team up for failure, not putting the players in the right position. And I just wanted your take on that. Can you play for the double play in that, or do you have to cut the run down at home?
Well, look, I was kind of curious if anybody would ask Mike Shildt about that on the post game, and they didn't. I don't know if they asked him after the cameras were off, and we may read it in the paper tomorrow or online at some point here in the paper tomorrow, like it's 1975. Well, there is still the paper. This is not the point. Anyway, read it online from somebody else coming up a little bit later today. Yeah, it was interesting. I guess the reason the infield was in, I guess, would be because they were thinking about cutting down the runner from third on a ground ball. And Lucas has good speed. Maybe they didn't feel great about doubling up Lucas. Now, you could have, if you wanted to there, walk Lucas to load the bases and set up a force play at any base. It brings up Clase, who's a switch hitter. So there wasn't a ton of lefty-righty, stuff there at that point. Lucas is a left-handed hitter. Clase is going to hit from the left side against Estrada. But, yeah, I don't have the reasoning totally 100% as to why you wouldn't at least have the middle infielders back to try to get a double play. Again, nobody asked it post game, at least on camera or at least on audio for us. So it is, I think it's a fair question. If the infield is back there, do they turn 2 on that against Lucas, who runs well? I don't know. To me, it probably was hit in the hole far enough to Iglesias is right where, it would have been a tough double play, but maybe a double play. I guess, Jed, without, it getting asked post game, I guess they probably felt like they were going to have a tough time turning 2 on Lucas, and they were going to try to cut the run down at home plate on a ground ball. That's the best I've got for you. Let's go to Miguel calling in from San Carlos. Miguel, welcome in.
Hey, Sammy, how are you?
I'm doing all right.
So, I'm optimistic for the season here. I think that we're going to be just fine. What I'm worried about is obviously going into Atlanta tomorrow on a 6-game losing streak, having beaten them 6 games in a row, and obviously they see us coming in very vulnerable. What are you thinking going into that game? Do you tweak the lineup in any way? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Miguel, I don't see them tweaking the lineup based on what we've seen, in years past and under Mike Shildt. I clearly, and this is, you can hear it when Mike talks after these games. Look, they are, they very much believe in these guys and the veterans they have in this lineup. I don't see them tweaking it. Clearly they did some good things in the extra innings. They broke out a little bit with runners in scoring position. To me, you hope they can take some of that, bring it into tomorrow. Mike Shildt alluded to that in the post game today. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, today is exactly how you get out of it, referring to the way they fought back, the way they delivered with runners in scoring position, took leads late. I wouldn't expect it yet. I don't think they're at that point. I know this hasn't been great. They've lost 6 in a row, and you're right. A tough series in Atlanta. That Braves team is playing a whole lot better than they were in the first series of the year when the Padres swept them. They're playing a whole lot better, and they're a good team. They're back. By the way, the Braves started terribly. They're back to 500 already at 24-24. And oh, by the way, on the mound tomorrow for the Blue Jays, you got Blue Jays on the mound tomorrow for the Atlanta Braves. It is Chris Sale, I believe. Let me double check this before we get to our game preview tomorrow. Chris Sale on the mound for Atlanta. So it's not getting much easier, Miguel. And they're going to play a good team on the road in the Braves. I know they weren't playing well when they were here to start the year, but they're playing a lot better, and they're a good team. So, it's going to be tough. You lose 6 in a row. Now you got a tough series in Atlanta. And you don't want this to turn into, and I said this yesterday, you don't want it to turn into, well, it was a 6-game losing streak, and now it's a 9-game losing streak, or it's losing 10 out of 11. That's where you can really get into trouble. But I don't anticipate, based on my feeling about it, what I know about this team and the way they go about things, I don't anticipate you're going to see any major changes tomorrow as far as lineup construction. I think they're going to ride it out for at least a while longer before they do anything like that. And we'll see if they can bounce back tomorrow. You just need one win to just, get off the mat here a little bit and start hoping you can get things going in the right direction. Appreciate the phone calls. Again, I don't promise to have all the answers, but I'm here to listen, as always, here on our Jamul Casino Resort Padres post-game show. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We do have a number of finals already today. The Phillies beat the Rockies 2-0 in Colorado. Yankees beat the Rangers 1-0 in New York. Yorbeat Vivas hit his first career home run in that game at Yankee Stadium. Lone run of the game. Yankees win it 1-0. We have one game going on right now. Angels and the A's in Sacramento. Angels ahead 7-5 in the 7th inning. By the way, the Angels, if they hang on and win that game, they'll be one game under 500. So the Angels playing better as of late. Everything else coming up a little bit later on. Guardians and the Tigers in Detroit at 3:40. Tanner Bybee on the mound for Cleveland. Jack Flaherty on the mound for Detroit. Brewers and the Pirates in Pittsburgh at 3:40. Braves and the Nationals at 3:45 in D.C. A.J. Smith-Shawver on the mound for Atlanta. Trevor Williams on the mound for the Nats. Mariners and the Astros at 5:10 in Houston. Lance McCullers Jr. on the mound for Houston. And George Kirby on the mound for Seattle. He'll make his season debut off the IL here today in Houston. We did have one postponement. Red Sox and the Orioles postponed due to rain at Fenway Park. They will make that up as part of a doubleheader tomorrow at Fenway. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Thursday. Final score in 11 innings, the Blue Jays 7 and the Padres 6. Let's hear today's play of the game.
The line between winning and losing can be razor thin. Which play was the difference between victory and defeat? This is today's play of the game, presented by Bill Howe Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
The 3-2 offering. Swung on ground ball through the left side, base hit, and the Jays walk it off. 7-6 over the Padres on the RBI single by Nathan Lucas.
Didn't have to be hit hard with the infield in, just to the right of Iglesias, and the Blue Jays walk it off.
The entire Jays dugout on the field, each of them with a bottle of water in their hand as they're spraying water on Nathan Lucas. After he helps the Jays complete a walk-off victory over the Padres and a sweep over the Padres here in Toronto.
Nathan Lucas, our play of the game, the walk-off single in the bottom half of the 11th inning to win it for the Blue Jays by a final score of 7-6. A 2-run bottom half of the 11th inning for the Jays. As always, gives us great pleasure to keep giving out our plays of the game to opposing teams, but sometimes got to be that way, and a walk-off hit makes it that way here today. Padres have lost 6 in a row. Again, they dropped to 27-21, and the Blue Jays improved to 25-24, back above 500. As always, if you missed any portion of our post-game coverage today, you can go back and listen to all of it on the Inside San Diego Baseball podcast with Sam Levitt, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcast. You can also go back on the 97.3 The Fan YouTube channel and catch any of our post-game coverage there as well in video form. Taking a look ahead to tomorrow. First pitch tomorrow in Atlanta, game 1 of a 3-game Padres and the Braves at 4:15 p.m. Our Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show will begin at 3:15. Left-hander Chris Sale on the mound for Atlanta tomorrow, and right-hander Nick Pivetta should be on the mound tomorrow for the Padres. Padres have not officially announced their rotation for the series, but if you follow the order, it would be Nick Pivetta on the mound for the Padres tomorrow. So how about that? Really good starting pitching matchup tomorrow between Chris Sale and Nick Pivetta. Again, first pitch at 4:15. Taking a look at the final totals in this one today in Toronto. For the Blue Jays, 7 runs, 12 hits, no errors. They left on 15. For the Padres, 6 runs, 8 hits, 1 error. They left on 6. Winning pitcher in this game was Braden Fisher, who finished the 11th inning. The top of the 11th inning, he improves to 1-0 on the year. Losing pitcher Jeremiah Estrada, who drops to 1-3. Time of game, 3 hours and 31 minutes. And the crowd at Rogers Center in Toronto, 33,971. Once again, first pitch tomorrow at 4:15 in Atlanta. Our pregame coverage begins at 3:15. Until then, for our great studio coordinator, Nick Danucci, I'm Sam Levitt saying so long from inside our San Diego studios. Again, the final score today in 11 innings, the Toronto Blue Jays 7 and the San Diego Padres 6. Braden Soprenet, Matt Scraby coming up next. You're on 97.3 The Fan. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Padres Radio Network.